What's up, everyone? It's Nick with the BuzzLux YouTube channel. And if you're watching this video, you must be interested in building a custom PC. So I always like to stay on top of new computer hardware and different custom computer builds, like the best price per performance, setup, and all that kind of stuff. So I decided I'm going to start making these videos to share my knowledge and help people make their decision on maybe their first custom computer or just needing ideas on what's the best on the market right now, what's the way to go for different price ranges and budgets. So today this is going to be the $600 Pentium anniversary build. So let's get started here. First, we're going to look at the case here. Now, the case I chose for a $600 build, you really want to put as much money as you can into the actual components, and don't get anything fancy. If it works, it works. So we're going to go with this Rosewill uh, FBM02 dual fan. So as you can see, it's a decent looking case here. No fancy USB 3 in the front or anything like that, which you don't really need, and it's a $600 computer. So keep in mind that it's a budget build definitely, and I think this case looks all right. And considering the price, 25 bucks with free shipping, it's a really a steal here for just a basic enclosure for the computer. And the website I'm going to be using here is newegg.com. I really like Newegg. They try to keep their prices really competitive with other online stores, and I just like their whole navigation of their website and everything. So as you can see here, as a front fan and a rear smaller fan, which I don't know is going to help much, but it does come with two fans, so that is a good thing. Um, Now, moving on here. Next thing we're going to look at is the motherboard. So I chose an Asus motherboard, the H81 chipset, because well, I'll go over it later, but the processor I chose is a big reason why I chose this particular board. But it's a good board. Asus has high quality products, and even their lower end ones still show that same quality. So as you can see, it supports all the new 4th gen core processors. This particular one doesn't have USB 3 front panel connectors. There's other motherboards in the H81 chipset that do have the front USB 3.0, but seeing as the case doesn't have it, it's not really needed. So yeah, it's a pretty good motherboard. It has everything you're going to need really for a budget build. It has your PCI Express 16x16 slot for your graphics card, two DIMM slots for the RAM, up to 1600 megahertz. It has two SATA 6 gig, which will be plenty for a budget build. It does have some USB 3.0 ports, two in the back. So yeah, one downside to this motherboard is it's not going to have an Intel LAN on it. It's going to have this Realtek LAN, which I've heard has some problems, but you should be good, and it's usually pretty good with their warranty. So $54, not too bad at all. All right, next thing. Moving on to the graphics card here. So this graphics card is by far the best bang for your buck purchase you can make right now, especially considering the price for this right now. Looks like it's a little bugged out here, but it's actually with rebate like 160 bucks, and that's pretty much the price of a 750 Ti. And this thing really just spanks the 750 Ti in terms of performance. As you can see, great reviews. It's going to play pretty much any game you want, 1080p on high settings, so you're good to go with this graphics card. Great card. Now, because we're going with the power hungry 270 R9 270, I decided to put in the 500 watt power supply. Now, as you can see, it's still a really good price for this. You could probably get by with a 430 watt, like the Corsair or the EVGA 430 watt. But since we're going to the 270 in this build, and that's a little more power hungry, and I do want to overclock with this system because you're going to get a lot more performance with the overclock. So I decided to go with this particular power supply to give a little more headroom for overclocking. And EVGA, it's 80 plus certified, not bronze, but it will still do just fine. Good reviews, 3-year warranty. So good power supply. Moving on. So here's the processor for this build. It's actually the name of the whole build itself. It's the Pentium build. This is the Pentium G3258, and this is the anniversary edition Pentium processor. And if you haven't heard, this is the one where you can actually overclock. It's pretty much like a K processor. So it has, you can tweak the voltage, overclock the card or the chip. So here it is right here. As a stock frequency of like 3.2 gigahertz, but people get these processors to all the way up to 4.4, I believe, and that's on the stock cooler. So just the stock cooler it comes with, it will run at 4.4 gigahertz, which is really impressive. And another really cool thing about these are these H81 chipsets. Most of the manufacturers unlocked the multiplier on these, so you can actually overclock the Pentium on these H81 budget boards here. And I've done my research, and these Asus ones seem to have better voltage tweaking. I think it has a higher voltage you can set it to than other ones, so you get a little better overclock with these, which is pretty nice. So I think with these H81 chipsets, you can get, let's say, you'll get pretty much 4.2 no matter what. But some people will be able to get higher, some lower, but pretty much no matter what, you're going to get 4.2, which is a super fast processor. Even though it's only 2 cores, most games are only threaded for 1 or 2 threads, so you should be good to go. Now, there are some games coming out now that won't run or don't run as well on 2 cores. But seeing as this is a budget build, you're probably not going to be spending $60 on a AAA title. This is going to be more for like indie games or older games, once they go down to like $7 or whatever. So, this will do fine for what you need it for. Whoever's going to be using this, they'll still be able to play plenty of games. There's plenty of games that this will run perfectly fine. So, moving on here, we have the Western Digital Blue 1 terabyte. So this, I just threw a standard hard drive in here. If you want to extend your budget a little more, you could put in SSD, but really I wouldn't recommend a 120 gigabyte hard drive. It's not going to give you nearly enough storage. You're going to be fighting, the storage, clearing out stuff and reinstalling stuff all the time. And since this is a budget build, I didn't want to put something that was more expensive than like the processor. So you can get a $100 240 gigabyte SSD, which is the lowest I would recommend. But again, that's adding that $50 onto the price of the build. So I would just go with this hard drive here. It's a 7200 RPM drive, 64 megabytes cache. So it's going to be fairly quick, especially with a fresh build, as long as you keep it, you know, free of viruses and malware and all that, and it should be just fine. Okay, moving on. The Windows 8.1. Now I include Windows because most people don't have just an extra copy laying around. Now you can drop the price $100 if you already have a license for Windows 7 or Windows 8. Now XP, forget about it. If you have a key for that, don't even bother. Don't use it. It's that's gone now. But if you have a Windows 7 key laying around, go ahead, use it. Uh, and you can also use if you want to use like a Linux machine or Steam box, you can do that as well. So keep that in mind. Um, now that's something to say about the hard drive too. If you have just another hard drive laying around as well, you know, use that. You have a spare 250 gigabyte hard drive you want to use in it, or you want to buy a small SSD for the OS and your main programs, and then use that old hard drive you have laying around for storage. You could do that as well. Um, okay, moving on to the RAM. Now the RAM for this build, I just picked whatever the cheapest 1600 megahertz 8 gigabyte kit was. You know, the 2 times 4 gigabyte with the timings, with good timings. And that's the main thing I look for, is just the cheapest 1600 RAM with the lowest timings. So like the 9924 is standard, pretty much standard timings for this kind of RAM. So yeah, just whatever is cheapest. It's pretty much all the same. Let's just catch one of like really bad reviews or whatever. All right. So there we are. That's the Pentium anniversary build. You can see here it has Roseville case, 25 bucks. The H81 chipset, ASUS board, which can overclock this processor with the stock heatsink that it comes with. So that gives you a really powerful processor for having 2 really strong threads, which most games only use 1 or 2 threads. So that means you have the same processor in terms of gaming as like a i7 if the game only uses a couple cores. So great buy there. That I'm not sure how future proof it's going to be. These future games that come out might start to use more cores, and there might be some games you can't play. And if that turns out to be the case in 6 months to a year or whatever, you can buy secondhand i3 or secondhand i5 when Haswell secondhand processor will drop in price a lot, and you can simply just throw it into this motherboard and be able to play all those games still. So something to keep in mind there. This is not a dead chipset. You can still throw in a different processor if you need it. Now you won't be able to overclock one of those bigger processors on here, or you might a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend it. But you have upgradability if you need it. Okay. So yeah, totals out to $583 before rebates. So I believe there's like a $20 rebate on this, or 15. This one has a little rebate too, like a $10 rebate. It doesn't show it, but or maybe they just took it off. All right. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. I'm gonna have a $800 build next, and then a $1,000 build, and then a $1,500 build. And also, I'm going to be going over my budget peripherals and a little bit more high-end peripheral choices. And I think I might do a laptop video too, now that I think about it. best bang for your buck laptop, gaming laptop video. So thanks for watching. This is Nick with the Buzz